Good morning, afternoon or evening, and welcome to video number 12 of the Faction Overview series. After a little thought, I decided to approach the Celtic factions in the same way as I did the others in the end. You know, the Greek factions have a lot in common and they weren't singled out, so this seems only fair. Therefore, to great fanfare, as this is the one that some of you have been waiting for a long time for, welcome to the Faction Overview for the Gauls. Now, the Gauls are what some people refer to as one of the cheat civs, and that's because they're just preposterously overpowered. But enough of a few people's thoughts on the balance of the faction. What else is there to say about Asterix and his buddies, our friends from over the channel? Well, the first thing that's going to jump out is just how few options the Gauls have. You've got minimal options with regards to units, siege engines and upgrades. So, as paradoxical as this sounds, they're an ideal start to civilization, as there's just so little to learn. They're also amongst the fastest developers in the game, and this is primarily because they're not just their houses will add to your population cap increases. All buildings opt for a population bonus, which obviously means that you're going to need to spend less of your wood on houses. And also, almost all the buildings only require wood, so you can get by with collecting just this resource, which, you must remember, soldiers gather 33% more quickly than they do when they're mining metal or stone. All of these things mean that with an efficient build order you can conceivably be in Phase 3, raining ram upon ram down upon your enemy while they flounder at Phase 2 or even actually Phase 1. Now, they're undeniably overpowered for the first 10 to 15 minutes, but if a game starts to really go beyond 25 minutes, then their lack of flexibility can really hurt them. While they're not a spam civ in quite the same way as the Mauryaans or the Persians, they do require numbers to deal with enemy siege, and so they can be a little weak going into endgames. On the negative side though, they are a bit inflexible. There are not a lot of different options as to how you play, so you're pretty much restricted to develop quickly, spam out some slingers and skirmishers with a few supporting spearmen, and point them and some rams at your enemy. However, once you've mastered them, as we've already discussed, they can be brutal. And finally, they and their Celtic brothers, the Britons, can farm like no other faction as they have access to a unique building, the rotary mill, and this makes their farms even more productive. So more about this is going to be covered later in the video, so have a look out for that. But before then, what about their buildings? When it comes to buildings, the tavern is one of only two unique ones available to the Gauls. It trains fanatics, which we're going to cover soon, and it also has the same upgrades as the house, so you can enhance your women's health, increase your housing population bonus, and get the upgrade to train women from houses as well from here, should you choose to. Although, why you'd need to do that when you're going to have loads of houses by the time you get to this building, I've no idea. Anyway, as mentioned, there is another building, but it doesn't train soldiers or anything, so it basically works just as an upgrade. Therefore, we're going to deal with it in that section just to make sure that it isn't empty, otherwise it would be. In terms of units, it's all about the ones that begin with S at Phase 1, and that's also true of Phase 2 when I think about it. So anyway, at Phase 1 you're going to have access to a spearman, a skirmisher infantry and a skirmisher cavalry, and that's the most combination of starting troop types across all the factions, which makes the Gauls a great faction to learn the game with. Now when you hit Phase 2 you get, in my opinion, the best cavalry unit and the best infantry unit, and that's a slinger and a sword cavalryman. Now sword cavalry are far and away the best anti-siege units and particularly deadly against rams and catapults. In fact, you actually have a counter to pretty much all the other factions' attack options, except early camel archers, and this is what makes the Gauls so easy to use and so effective in the vast majority of cases. In terms of siege, this section is so short that it may as well not exist, to be honest, and that's because all it's going to say is rams. That said, you do have supporting troops which are just perfect for a ram attack, and well, there's little more to say about it, to be honest. So again, they're very easy to use, but you're limited in options, and that really sums up the Gauls if you're not getting that yet. The only unique upgrade, other than the one that, allows champions to be trained from the barracks, is actually a building. Or actually, is it a structure? I think I consider it more a structure. So anyway, it's called the rotary mill, and it gives a 25% bonus to all farmers for food collection within 60 metres. And that's just lovely, and it allows you fewer farmers and more soldiers, so get one built. The Gauls champions continue the minimalist kind of vibe going on with the faction. You're going to get a swordsman and a lancer cavalry, and that means you have everything but archers on both horseback and on foot. More excitingly though, you get one of only a few Phase 2 champions out there, and that's the Naked Fanatic. Now these are totally unique and no faction has anything like them. They're almost as fast as cavalry, but they're also spearmen, so you get the usual bonus when they're attacking horsemen. As they arrive in Phase 2 as well from the tavern, you can utilise them before most other factions get access to their specialist troops, and this can be used as part of an early push as they're just excellent at raiding enemies' farms. However, you have to bear in mind that they are almost armour free, which means that they're not going to last long if they come under sustained fire. Because of this, they're an acquired taste and, to be honest, rarely used, but if you want to try them, then make sure you use them like you would Lancer cavalry, a quick in and out, as they're not the strongest attackers and their main effect is actually creating more idle time than it is necessarily killing units. Now, something which may come as a surprise for such an overpowered faction is that the heroes are just the epitome of meh. You know, as always, it's a choice between three though, so let's check them out and see what they have to offer. First up, we have Brennus. He's an infantry swordsman, which is nice, and his bonus is a simple plus 15 metal loot for every enemy unit killed within 60 meters. Now this can actually be quite handy, but it's not going to replace trading or mining in the metal stakes. Still, in a large-scale battle that he's at the heart of, it's very possible to add 300 metal or even more to your coffers just from this bonus, which is not to be sniffed at. Next up, we have the infantry spearman that is Britomartus, and his bonus is that all your gathering rates are increased by a further 15%, and this also has no range limit. So if you were concerned that you couldn't farm fast enough already, then combine all the bonuses around farming and you're going to get a rate that's 135% faster than those people just starting out in Phase 1, and you think you've got to agree that's pretty impressive. And finally, we're going to get to our man that's probably your best bet. He's Vercingetorix, and he will give all your soldiers and siege engines within 60 meters a 20% attack bonus. He's also a sword cavalry, and he's definitely my favourite, but none of them really are in danger of hitting the top 3 heroes in the game. But if you'd like to see who I do think are the top heroes in the game, then why don't you click the link in the top right now. And if you're not so interested in that, or you've just come back from watching that, then why don't we actually get to the end of this. So this is the penultimate conclusion that I'm going to be recording for these faction overviews. So before I start welling up, let's just see what we can conclude from what we've learned in the past few minutes. So firstly, not only is it possible to develop quickly and get yourself to Phase 3 long before most other factions, it's actually an imperative for the Gauls. You really need to crush your enemy quickly in most cases, as a long game tends to benefit other factions' greater arrays of champions and siege. So, to quote Vasquez from Aliens, "Whatever you're gonna do it fast!" Now the next thing to consider is that your barracks are made entirely of wood, as are the vast majority of your other buildings. So focus all your attention on collecting wood in Phase 1 and only amend that actually slightly in later phases, as wood is almost everything to the Gauls. So going back to barracks, you can just spam these out like there's no tomorrow, which really helps boost your population during battles, as well as adding to your population cap. It's win-win. And finally, your only siege weapons are rams, so make sure you get the upgrades, and if you can, then load them with either spearmen or skirmishers. Now this is for one of two strategies. Firstly, if you want to send them into the heart of the battle, then the spears will jump out and kill any sword cavalry that are sent to destroy them. And if your approach is more fancying a sneak attack, then sending them around the map to destroy your opponent's base, then skirmishers inside can kill off any women trying to take out the ram before it takes out the civic centre. You know, it carries 10 soldiers, so why not use that capacity? And that's the end for the Gauls. So thank you for watching, and for those of you asking, you should expect to see the Britons video up relatively quickly. And if you want to know exactly when that's coming, then there's no better way than to like, subscribe, and click the bell. So why not do that right now? Anyway, thanks again, and I'll see you all in a week or so. So until then, stay healthy and stay safe. Adios.